You likely know by now that Elon Musk, newly deputized by Trump as his hatchet man, sent the following email to all government employees. Consistent with President Donald Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done this last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. Now, before we go any further, I just have to say that what's most incredible here is that this is a political party that ran an entire campaign in 2016 on the dangers of compromising national security via email. And now these same people are demanding members of the CIA write 5 things they did this week to some random HR email address that may or may not be monitored by a 19-year-old kid whose longstanding principle is that he hates Indian people? Are you fucking kidding me? What, are judges supposed to write to HR to explain 5 cases they heard? Are prosecutors? If the Republicans could take 5 minutes to remember one modicum of what they once pretended they stood for and pull Trump's dick out of their mouth long enough for their oxygen to return to their brains, they might be able to acknowledge how batshit crazy it is to run a government like this and to put our national security at risk to the degree they're putting it at risk right now. But of course, that would require a spine, and these bowls of jello have the collective courage of a baby deer caught in the middle of a 6-lane highway. To that point, Elon is getting some swift pushback by at least a couple of people. According to the Department of Defense, DoD personnel may have received an email from OPM requesting information. The Department of Defense is responsible for reviewing the performance of its personnel, and it will conduct any review in accordance with its own procedures. When and if required, the department will coordinate responses to the email you have received from OPM. For now, please pause any responses to the OPM email titled, "What did you do last week?" Here's another one from Kash Patel at the FBI. FBI personnel may have received an email from OPM requesting information. The FBI, through its Office of the Director, is in charge of all of our review processes and will conduct reviews in accordance with FBI procedures. When and if further information is required, we will coordinate the responses. For now, please pause any responses. And finally, one more from Tulsi Gabbard for the intelligence community. Given the inherently sensitive and classified nature of our work, IC employees should not respond to the OPM email. If you're Elon and you're getting pushback from Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pete Hegseth's Department of Defense, the most partisan actors in America, then maybe, just maybe, you might have lost the plot. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's not a great idea to have every FBI agent and intel community member list out what they're doing to a random HR email address. Maybe it's not a great idea to have every member of the military and Department of Defense reveal what they're doing to some random HR email address. Maybe if Elon had half a brain, he'd have realized that before he decided to embarrass himself by cosplaying as the Emperor of America. And if Trump had half a brain, he'd step in while this idiot oligarch continues to embarrass this administration. But none of that will happen, and instead this public humiliation will continue to play itself out. Granted, Trump is not going to do any such thing at any point because he already got what he needs out of Elon in the form of $250 million to get him the presidency. And so now it's time for him to sit back and allow Elon to run the show and cash in on his side of the quid pro quo. And lest there be any doubt, no, Elon is not doing this out of some patriotic calling. And yes, Elon is deriving a direct benefit himself. Think about where Musk has spent his time with Doge under the pretense of cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse. He started with USAID. Well, the USAID Inspector General had already initiated a probe into Starlink's satellite terminals in the Russia-Ukraine war. That Inspector General was fired, and the investigation into Elon was shut down. Who does that benefit? Or how about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, another early Elon target? Consumers have submitted over 300 complaints about Tesla to the CFPB. 66 of these complaints were submitted in the last year. And yet, Trump fired CFPB Director Rohit Chopra, and he installed Project 2025 architect Russ Vought as the Bureau's acting director. The CFPB's Washington headquarters was then closed, and staff and contractors were all told that they cannot perform any work tasks. Musk himself tweeted, "Delete CFPB," less than a week after the agency finalized a rule that could put his planned collaboration with Visa to offer a real-time payment system on the platform into the agency's crosshairs. In fact, here's Elizabeth Warren drawing that link out quite clearly.
Elon Musk, as you know, he bought Twitter, and he's just lost money hand over fist on that investment. So he's had a better idea, better from his perspective, and that is he's going to do X money. And the idea here is he's going to be everything on the financial side and social side for everybody in the country, maybe around the world if he gets the chance. There's just one bump in the way. and that's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's not that they say no. You can go ahead and build a new tech platform, a financial system, good for you. But you've got to follow the basic rules of not cheating people, not lying to people, and not sucking up their personal data and selling it to somebody else. Yeah. He doesn't like that. So he's announced he's going to do X. What a great idea. Move the bump out of the way before you start. You know, it's a little like a bank robber saying, oh, before I go into the lobby with my sacks that I'm ready to fill up, I'm just going to fire the cops.
Yeah.
And now I'll go in and take the money.
So after seeing what Elon did to the CFPB, and after hearing Warren's explanation as to how the CFPB was an obstacle for him on his path to consolidating more power, again, ask yourself, who does this all benefit? Or how about the Department of Labor, which oversees the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, also oversees the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, all of which had over a dozen open investigations into Tesla and SpaceX regarding alleged unfair labor practices, safety violations, and discriminatory work practices. The NLRB filed a complaint against SpaceX after 8 employees said they were fired in retaliation for speaking critically of dear leader Musk. SpaceX sued the NLRB in response. The Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs was conducting an audit of potential workplace discrimination over at Tesla. The Equal Employment Opportunity Compliance Program sued Tesla for alleged racial harassment and retaliation in 2023. And in response, well, Trump fired the Department of Labor Inspector General, the chair of the NLRB, blocked their ability to rule on cases, gutted the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs via executive order, which prevented their investigation findings about Tesla from being made public, and, for good measure, fired 2 of the 3 Democratic commissioners on the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Ask yourself, once again, who does that all benefit? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The EPA had multiple lawsuits against Tesla over violations of the Clean Air Act and hazardous waste laws at the company's automotive manufacturing plant in Fremont, California. Trump fired the Inspector General. The FEC was set to set a rule on the number of complaints filed during the 2024 election cycle, including complaints regarding Musk's America PAC. So Trump literally removed the FEC chair from her post. The Department of the Interior, which runs the Fish and Wildlife Services, which Musk has repeatedly clashed with, called their review process unacceptable. Trump fired the DOI Inspector General. The DOJ filed a lawsuit in 2023 against SpaceX for allegedly engaging in hiring discrimination and investigations into whether Tesla had been candid in describing the features of its vehicles. Trump has since remade the DOJ in his image. The SEC sued Twitter in January, alleging that Musk misled shareholders about his Twitter stock purchases in 2022 and ordered Musk to pay the federal government as much as $150 million. Musk called that agency a totally broken organization in response to the lawsuit. Trump has since pushed out the SEC chair, leaving the agency with a Republican majority. There are a staggering 12 agencies where Elon has a conflict. 12 agencies where either he or Trump have kneecapped their ability to continue investigating him or levying fines on him. So when it comes to government waste, look, I am all for rooting it out. But when you're doing it in a way that is compromising our national security, when you're doing it in a way that's putting the intelligence community at risk, when you're doing it in a way that jeopardizes our military, when you're doing it in a way that just so happens to benefit you, then excuse me if I'm not sold on the virtue of this plan. Which, by the way, is to say nothing of the fact that I happen to be adamantly opposed to the notion of the world's richest man cutting Medicaid, firing veterans from the VA, ending cancer research, and stripping away education funding. But hey, remember, if Elon actually did care about any of those things, don't forget that he's personally got the money to have solved all of them on his own. But he didn't and hasn't, because his priority isn't people, it is consolidating more power, more influence, and more money for himself. Do not listen to what Trump and Elon say, watch what they do, because they're putting on full display exactly who they're working for, and it's not you or me or even the Republican base, it is themselves. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.